Hey everyone, welcome to the Centre Bounce. Today we're reviewing the 2022 AFL off-season and season of the Gold Coast Suns.
Welcome, guys.
Big J, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm excited. Gold Coast Suns are in a bit of a transition period at the moment, from being the team that everyone hated to now having some good players, which is great. All those young draft picks are, one or two maybe leaving, but the rest of them are staying, and the team's building. So, yeah, I'm good. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I mean, 12 years in the system. Stuart Dew at the helm. There was a lot of talk. Will he stay? Will he not? But they can recommitted to him. So it looks like they're finally, getting that stability. Yeah, they didn't make finals again. 12 years trying to, search for a finals appearance hasn't happened yet. But I feel like that last year that went by was their closest run yet. And that's all I think a Gold Coast Sun fan can hope for at this point. Just keep working away, trying to get closer and closer, and they dishing out a lot more good performances. They've won, they beat some tough opposition this last year,
Yeah,
so it's definitely exciting.
definitely true. Like you're saying, that they definitely have some crucial cogs in the system, and we'll talk about them in a little bit today. But
Yeah,
you know, I think that everyone's kind of a lot of the people that I know, they're kind of their second or third team. So
yeah.
we'll see what happens.
I know for us, a lot of fans are like, when we're sick and tired of Essendon's shitness, we're just like, I'm gonna back for Gold Coast. I'm gonna go buy Gold Coast membership.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to hate on the Suns, and I think that's the case when they've been so low on the ladder every year. But it looked like they made some strides this year. They
mm-hmm.
finished 12th. They had their 10 wins, but they had a percentage over 100.
Yeah,
So they had, I guess most of their performances, they started to dish out a lot more consistency this year.
mm-hmm.
Obviously, there were some hiccups here and there. The loss to Essendon was probably the biggest example of that. And that just happened to be on the back of this epic performance when they beat Richmond after being down by 40 odd points. And
Yeah,
Noah Anderson kicks the winning goal after the siren. I can understand that emotions were probably really high,
mm.
and it was hard for that young team to focus. And I'm not complaining. Draper got goal of the year as a result. What did you think of the 2022 season for the Suns?
Um, I think they've definitely surprised a lot of teams. That they've kind of been known as like the whipping boys of the AFL for a very long time. So actually progressing and doing so well, I'm pretty happy for them, right? Like they're a side that the first, 5 weeks they look fantastic and then they normally fall off. So to end up 12th on the ladder is pretty good. I think similar to this year, and we've spoken about it in our Essendon review just before, where the top 10 or 11 teams are the ones that are really vying for finals. They're really, really pushing, and like someone gets pushed out. Whereas Gold Coast, I kind of see as that next echelon of teams. So being 12th on the ladder kind of represents that pretty well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think part of the excitement that was around Gold Coast this year was their new look forward line. I thought, especially when the news came out that Ben King had done his ACL and that he was going to be out again, I thought that was going to be a devastating blow for the Suns. But their acquisitions in Marbior Chol and Levi Casbolt, they were not household names, but my goodness, they were exciting as a partnership,
Yeah,
that duo up forward. And it was a very formidable forward line, and it really worked for them, which, it makes it interesting when King comes back. What sort of role will he also play forward? Will there be three talls there, or will one of them be forced to go back and play a different role to help out in defense? So it was a really exciting forward line for him. I thought that was sensational.
yeah. When King comes back, it's going to be interesting. I think he just slots kind of straight back in the spot. Maybe Casbolt starts on the bench instead of starting on field. But I think he's too influential in the team not to have. And I think both of those two have kind of shown how good they are up forward. So it would be a disservice to not play all three. Maybe Chol goes in and does a bit more ruck work, that kind of thing, to cover the spot. But outside of that, I think they kind of stay relatively the same.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think some more another reason why they were so exciting this year was they had Jared Witts play more games this year. He was there. He was, he's one of the best tap ruckmen in the league. And for all those super coaches out there, if you started him early, you were absolutely cashing in, and he was on fire. Especially for his starting price. We didn't, unfortunately. We paid up majorly to get him in, but having him and Touk Miller, Raul was back this year playing more games. It just felt like that midfield unit was improving, even before our very eyes.
Yeah, I think Touk Miller, I don't know if you've seen the off-season photos, but Touk Miller looks pretty fit. I think he's really the injured room of that team. And he knows that he kind of knows that that's the case as well. And I think that's why he gets so fit and why he puts in so much effort, because he's like, great team captain or team leader at least, and kind of sees that as, hey, this is what I have to do. So it really kind of, their success next year kind of will be the case of, well, can Raul get back to, draft year form, that kind of thing, because he has fallen off a little bit. And the rest of those guys kind of picking up a little bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. So they've also added a couple more players. In Tom Berry, moving across from the Lions, and they also added Ben Long. Now that Ben Long acquisition was just, to me, came out of nowhere. And you got these players that can have some impact forward of center. And that could, it just seems that, Dew wants to play this high enthusiasm, high energy forward structure to sort of try and maybe get some speed on the ball. Ben Long can is capable of, taking some great marks as well. So it just seems like the game style might be to move it forward and quickly, as fast as possible and at all costs. And why not with that awesome forward line, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if Long played much forward in his last year or so at the Saints. I think he swapped between the forward line and the defense, but I definitely agree with you in terms of speed. I think the AFL has moved from a static kind of game to get it out of your back line, get it to the forward line as quick as you can, and control that pace, because you can generally catch teams out of position. And those two players coming in will definitely be able to help them do that. Maybe Berry a little bit not proven as much as what Long is, but still good players for Gold Coast.
Oh yeah, for sure. And their departures, headed by the Isaac Rankin move to the Crom to Adelaide, but that was just an offer that they simply could not justify matching, and so I'm not sure that they are terribly disappointed to lose Rankin for that price. Obviously, it would have been great to keep him, but I think holding it onto him for that price was just simply too much to pay. So I think they did the right thing, just facilitated it, let him go to Adelaide. The more interesting one I felt was the Jack Bowes to Geelong. That was with pick 7. It's just like, oh my God, how can this be, Big J? They won the flag.
Geelong, I think it's surprising how much of a feeder club, I guess, Gold Coast has been to Geelong in the past. I think it goes pretty undocumented how, I think they got a few different picks from Gold Coast at different times, especially when they had those priority picks. But hopefully with Rankin and Bowes going, their salary cap issues are gone and they can actually afford to keep their younger players. Because I know with Bose, he was somewhat of a fringe player, but there was a bit of a cap hit or a cap squeeze with him still being in the team. And that's kind of why they said, hey, we're looking to offload him with pick 7. It's still phenomenal for Geelong, though, like you say. You know, pick 7 plus a decent player for basically nothing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It is.
But the richer get richer in the AFL, right? You got to win more games. You got to be a destination club to actually get kind of these deals to happen to you. Doesn't happen to North Melbourne.
No one wants to go to North Melbourne. No, I'm just joking. Just joking.
Hey,
you want Clarko to go? It's right. You want Clarko. You got Clarko, and Clarko brings everybody. No one wants to go to North. They want to go to Clarko. So let's just put it out there, mate.
Where does he work? He works at North Melbourne. It's the same thing. I think out of the delistings that Gold Coast had, obviously Rory Thompson I think his body kind of let him down by the end of it. I think Markov played a few games. Was sad to see him go. He was the one that had the nice moustache, right?
Yeah. It was a beautiful moustache.
I thought he was decent. I'm not sure if they were aiming to re-rookie him or something happened kind of off-field that led him to leave, but I thought he was probably the hardest done by out of those guys there. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely the name that jumps out to me the most out of those delistings. But it seems to me that Gold Coast we don't just want decent players. We don't just want players that are capable of playing AFL footy. They want to build a really significant list where there is no weaknesses, where everybody is really good. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Every club must make some tough calls. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a team where all the delistings, all of them were fine. None of them were stiff. You know, it is what it is. And I think if we want the standard of AFL football to improve, there has to be a lot more onus on players to make sure that they are playing at really elevated levels and to maintain, their spots on lists.
Yeah,
so, Gold Coast, I think will continue to improve, and that's something that I think a lot of people would be happy to see.
Yeah.
And they'll also improve because they added, with pick 6 in the draft, Bailey Humphrey, who's a forward mid, and a lot of people have been talking, singing praises of this guy, and there were quite a few teams that wanted to trade up and get to him. But Gold Coast stuck to their guns. They didn't want to trade out. They had their eyes on this guy, and they took him. Not super active in the draft, but what do you think of this position for the Suns?
I think their midfield is decent. Obviously, their ruckman, they've probably got a top 3, top 4 ruckman now. I think the defense is definitely building. This kind of position on field is kind of a position of need for them. When you look at Gold Coast, now that Rankin's gone, obviously, their forward line really doesn't scream like top-notch talent, whatever. So to have kind of that really nice half-forward guy who can also run through the midfield, I think it's probably a really good pickup for them. If they had gone in and picked up like a Booslinger or someone, you would really have to kind of think about, hey, what are they going for here? Whereas I think Humphrey's probably close to best talent, but I know they were pretty hard into him from all reports, like interviews and stuff from Humphrey, that Gold Coast said, hey, you're our man. So definitely, they picked him for a reason.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And because, you look at their midfield. Yeah, exactly. Because when you look at their midfield, a lot of it is reliant. You just feel like, as you said before, Tuke Miller is their engine room. He is really the heartbeat of this midfield and of this team. And especially with the new 6-6-6 rule, you just can't help but feel that having a strong midfield is a must more than ever. The midfield has always been important, but with this forced structure, it becomes so much harder to stem the tides when the momentum is against you coming out of the middle. And all you have to do is just look back at that grand final between Melbourne and the Bulldogs, and you just see that is the prime example of what happens when momentum gets away from you out of the center. So having a strong midfielder that can burst out and kick a goal on the run in Bailey Humphrey has been huge. Is a huge acquisition for them, and he can complement the likes of Rowell and Miller and Anderson. I think they're
And
really
other
building a
Anderson.
special midfielder.
Now they've got second Anderson in there as well. So good old Jed Anderson from North Melbourne picked up as
That's right.
as a SSP player. So help and learn and give them some support in that forward line as well. So yeah.
Oh, for sure. So you can see that there is definitely a harder edge, and a more explosive, running ability coming out of Gold Coast, and hopefully they're able to maintain that throughout the whole year. I think Jed Anderson, what he does have is an ability to keep running, and hopefully that can also help develop these other players and who can learn from Tuke Miller's example. You see that picture. He's there super buff and running with a band behind him. I think that's the rest of the Gold Coast team holding on to that band while pulling the role, while Tuke Miller's running and dragging them across the line. So it's definitely a very exciting time to be a Gold Coast Sun fan if you guys are out there. But at the same time,
we used to say the same thing about Cripps' shoulders, right? He always used to have his shoulders taped because he's sore from carrying the team. So
that's right.
Similar thing with Tuke Miller.
Yeah,
I think if we just go back for a sec, we'll just quickly talk about the two rookie inclusions too. So Blakely and Stein coming in. I guess I kind of view them, they're both like tallish defenders. I think Blakey's a bit shorter, but Stein's another key defender in the team. So Thompson going out kind of facilitates a need there. And then also they've had quite a good luck with picking up mature guys as well. So Sam Collins kind of comes to mind as well. I mean, if they can be half as good as with him in that back line, it should help just kind of stop some of those key forwards, I guess, the guys that are really going to hurt. So, yeah, definitely there.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So, what do we reckon for the Gold Coast Suns next year?
Well, as we put there, so 10 to 12 wins, so similar to this year, maybe a little bit better. Same kind of ladder position, a little bit better. Instead of being that, you would say the first group of players is the ones who are going to be in, like, first group of teams are the ones competing or going to be in the top 8 next year. Gold Coast were in that next group, whereas now I think they're going to be slowly pushing into that first group of teams. So that's kind of where we were thinking there as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like last year, it seemed to be the top 10 was the benchmark, and then the bottom 8, there was the gap. It looks like this year it's going to be a top 12. And if Gold Coast are able to cement themselves in that top 12, I think that is a very good result. The league in general is getting stronger. There are a lot more acquisitions. The rich are getting richer. So if Gold Coast are able to match it with those rich teams, with those big boys, like we think that they can, they're definitely capable of surprising teams. Whether or not they'll make the 8, it's unlikely, we think, given just how tough it will be to break into that side. But the following year, there's no reason why not, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And then we've kind of spoken a little bit earlier about how will Ben King coming into the side affect like how the forward line looks. And I think we're a general consensus, right, that kind of slots back in and just helps to bolster it. Kind of gives him that he was pretty mobile before his injury, a bit more power and mobility, and just someone else to kick to that can kick goals really well too.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping that from happening, I don't think. When you've got a guy of this caliber, you tend to want your best players to play forward of center because that's where the goals are. And normally kicking more points and more goals would yield you more wins, I think. So
yeah, it's win, right?
Exactly. Kick more points than the opposition. So
Mhm.
it's definitely a very exciting time to be a Gold Coast fan. I think all of us want to see them succeed. There's been 12 seasons. They haven't got their, finals appearance yet, but it's getting closer. You can feel something building under Dew. He's got a great system there. He's been extended, so there seems to be clear skies out there at the Gold Coast Suns.
Yeah, definitely true.
Alrighty then. So that brings our discussion to a close today about the Gold Coast Suns. Looking forward to seeing how they develop. Any final words there, Big J?
I think they're going to have a few more surprise wins next year compared to previous years. And I think as a Gold Coast fan, if you're watching, you're definitely going to be happy with them,
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that fun, awesome YouTube compulsory required stuff. We'll continue with these team reviews. We've got Geelong coming up, so stay tuned.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.